everybody, and welcome in yet again to the Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alex Berna. That's Matt Morrison. He's back. And Mike Wolfgang returns as well, as we are ready to go here. Final talks of the NFL preseason. Matt's going to put his finger up. What do you want?
Before we start here, I want to give a shout out to Ryan at Sportsman's Barber Shop. He cut my hair and trimmed my beard today, and he did a pretty darn good job at it. So I want to give him a shout out.
All right. Well, then we're kicking Matt out of the show already, promoting other businesses. No, not allowed. So, Mike, let's get in here to the NFL preseason.
I got nothing.
Yeah. All right. Well, preseason first game, Packers Chiefs going on tomorrow night. Should be a fun one here. Final round of the preseason. Not really sure who we're going to see play in this one, guys. You might see a little bit. I don't think we've seen Rodgers really at all here in the preseason, so he might get a couple of runs in. Same with Mahomes, but I think for the most part, we're going to see backups throughout this week in most games.
Yeah, but I think some you're going to also see start. I don't know about this game, but I think some you're going to see starters too as well because it's the last final tune-up for the regular season. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm out there playing to try to keep building this chemistry with these receivers too.
Right. I mean, he's already had plenty of complaints, so I mean,
if I'm him, I'm out there.
Yeah.
If I'm him, I'm out there. I don't. Maybe not so much. Actually, you could probably say for Patrick Mahomes too, because he's playing with some different weapons this year. So I wouldn't mind seeing both these guys out, but you might not see a whole lot of them. But the last tune-up for the regular season, you got to get this stuff ready. After this is it. Cuts are made. You got to get ready for the season. So, and both these teams have some expectations this year. So I think they got to get things pretty down pat, at least as good as they can before the regular season starts.
Matt.
I don't know. I'm not really paying attention to preseason. It's preseason. I don't watch it.
Well, Matt, it doesn't matter. It's your job. Talk about it.
No, I got to go.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
That's an odd one. All right. Well, I guess my thoughts here might kind of the same as yours. Packers and Chiefs are going up against one another in this game. I do kind of agree, since we haven't really seen either one of these starting quarterbacks, that they probably should get some work in with these guys. But as we've been talking all this time, it feels like one of those preseasons where no one's really playing. They're really getting into these midweek camps and training sessions with other schools and that sort. So I think we're not really going to see anybody. They've probably gotten their work in elsewhere. But if I was, to make a prediction in this one, based on what we've seen off of backup so far, I think I've actually kind of liked Green Bay. Jordan Love, I don't think you can say you've really liked what you've seen from him so far. It doesn't feel like that experiment's turned out the right way. But I think as the rest of the team goes, they've actually been pretty good. Chiefs made a big step up in that second game against the Washington Commanders after only putting up 14 points in their first game. Patrick Mahomes got actually a little bit more work in that one. But I think when you look down the list of guys they've been able to bring in and play, I think the Chiefs right now have shown better depth so far in the preseason.
I think so. And I think from the part of Patrick Mahomes, you're going to, like I said, I think if it's me, I'm playing these guys a little bit more than I did. Not a whole lot. I'm not saying play them the whole game or even the, one half. But, with Patrick Mahomes, he threw two touchdown passes in that game. He had that sick throw. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was a highlight over Twitter that preseason games, these throws he makes, I don't know how this guy doesn't tear his arm out of place the way he makes these throws.
Yeah.
So he's doing this preseason. I think he's going to be ready to go. But again, if I'm probably playing Pat Mahomes probably the same amount that he did in this game against the Commanders as this last game, because depth wise too. If you're talking about a team that plays with depth too, you got to learn to play with all those other guys too behind them. It's not like you're just playing with one group. They're trying to get a lot of new faces in there. They're going to use a lot of guys in different places this year, so they got to keep building that too. And I think you're the same with the Packers as well.
Fair enough. All right. So if you're going to make a pick going into this one, Mike, Packers or Chiefs here to open up the preseason week 4?
It's like I keep saying, it's hard to pick these, but I'll just go Chiefs at home. I know that's more of an argument for me in the regular season based on the home team, but I think you're going to see a little bit more out of them in terms of playing their guys too. Pat Mahomes is going to play a little bit more, and I'll just go Chiefs at home.
I like Chiefs at home as well. I just think you've seen their depth show improvements from game 1 to 2, and Packers, they showed No, they really didn't show much improvement, and their defense got better from games 1 to 2. But going in here 3, their defense is going to have to play really well with this lackluster offense, and I just don't think you do that against Kansas City. We'll see how much Mahomes gets time to play in this one, but I think it should be Chiefs by a decent margin in this one, at least plus 10.
Yeah, I could probably see that too. That's not a bad prediction there for scores.
Right. Next game here, 49ers and the Texans. They'll go 15 minutes after Packers and Chiefs. Texans playing at home here. Both teams come in undefeated so far in the preseason, so one of them's going to drop going into week 4.
Yeah, who's going to be? Last week, the preseason. Let's see who loses.
Right, yeah, I think this is kind of the fun part of preseason, right? When you know you have at least one team in Houston they're not great. They're probably not going to do anything in the regular season, but you kind of just want to see them get that last hurrah, right before everything goes to crap here in a week. So I think you're going to see them play really well. We've seen some good offense out of them, and they've had some pretty decent defense to go along with it. And I think they have a pretty deep quarterback room, especially when you look at how preseason quarterback rooms normally go. I mean, they have Kyle Allen and Jeff Driscoll. Both guys, I believe, have taken starting reps in the NFL, and that's not something a lot of guys can say. I mean, you look on the other side with the Rams, they got John Wolford and Bryce Perkins in their prior games. So you just kind of look at this Texans team, and while they don't necessarily have a great starter, they have decent depth at that position. So I do like them coming into this one. Chiefs, on the other hand, they've looked pretty good. Defense has been solid. Quarterback position, they got some young guys they're working with. I think this will be a final kind of show-off game. Who's going to make that final roster? Who's going to get those last cuts? I think Texans probably have some more room to maneuver in this one, so I'm going to go Texans in it, but I think it's a close one.
Yeah, and I think overall, if you're trying to look for storylines out of these final preseason games, I think there's a little bit because on the 49ers front of it, Trey Lance is actually in line to play, so we'll see a little bit more action to him. And stuff off the field that's probably not involved with this game is, the 49ers have until the start of the season to see what they want to do with Jimmy. Not like it's deadline to cut them, but if they hold on to him, they're going to have to guarantee all that money. So we'll see if before the year if they cut him, that's less money they'll have to pay him. But if he's on the roster, they'll have to pay him a little bit more. So I think that's another factor to see, not in this game, but overall with the 49ers to end the preseason now.
All right. So what was your official pick there? Sorry.
I guess I'll go 49ers here, just because of the fact Trey Lance is going to play a little bit more too compared to last game. So I'll see.
I think that will be beneficial for that group. And you look at the way he's turning this offense kind of over into a more dynamic group. I think compared to Jimmy Garoppolo, who was semi-mobile but really liked to be a pocket passer. It's kind of the way he grew up playing the quarterback position through his time in the NFL. He sat in a quarterback pocket style system. It's kind of the way he wanted to go. Trey Lance coming out of North Dakota State, he was able to do whatever he want whenever he wanted. So I think he is going to have some learning curves, and he's going to take his bumps this season. But I think he's going to make this offense a whole different monster because they've had really great defenses that have carried them very far, and they've had offenses that have been good enough. If Trey Lance can make this offense more dynamic, they're going to have one of the best offenses in the NFL in the next couple of years. Yeah,
and it's a team that, like we talked about, was in the Super Bowls and with average offenses. So if he can make them just like this much better, this guy's the limit for his 49er team. And I think he has the potential to at least do that. We'll see what else he can go with it.
100%. Next one on here, Bills taking on the Panthers. Panthers officially named Baker Mayfield the starting quarterback there. They're 1-1 in the preseason so far. Bills, though, remain undefeated after some pretty impressive offensive performances, 27 over the Colts, 42 points against the Broncos. And their offense and defense got better in back-to-back weeks. This is a team that really starting to cook here in the preseason. They're showing off their depth well. On the side of the Panthers, they won their first game in a close one against the Commanders. Offense fell completely short against the Patriots last week. Their depth at quarterback is coming down to finding out who's going to be the third string between Corral and Phillip Walker. I'm not expecting big things out of them. I don't think you're going to see Baker or Sam Darnold in this game either. So I'm going to have to go Bills. The depth that they've shown so far, I believe they did say Josh Allen will sit in the game. But, I mean, you saw last week, Case Keenum was just dominating with that offense, and their ground game is phenomenal.
Well, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the Panthers side of it. So we know what we're getting with the Bills and what we're going to get this regular season. But with the Panthers part of it, if it's me, I want to see Baker a little bit more because he's on a new team. I just talked about even Aaron Rodgers and some other experienced guys, some veterans. I want to see a little bit of them this last week of the preseason. I want to see a little bit of Baker too. 'Cause like I said, he's with new teams with different faces. And I even saw quotes out there too, and I kind of agree with it, that I'm not saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl this year. I'm not even saying they're going to win playoff games. But I think there could be a team in the Panthers this year that, with Baker, with the other guys we were talking about, that they can potentially – I don't know if you heard that, Alec, but I'm looking at this Panther team this year that, again, I'm not saying they're going to be a Super Bowl team. I'm not even going to say they're going to win playoff games, but I think they could be a team similar to what the Bengals did last year in terms of catch people off guard. Not the run they went on, but catching people off guard. If they do the right things, because I think they made the right choice with Baker out there. I don't know what he's going to be, but – again, I keep saying this all the time, that last time we saw this guy healthy, he was pretty good with some good average weapons around him. So I think they could catch people off guard this year. Not saying they're going to have a terrific year, but focusing more on them than the Bills, because I think we know we're going to get the Bills this year. But that's where I'm at with the Panthers. So I want to see a little bit of Baker too in this last preseason game.
I would like to. I just don't know if you're going to. That's the one thing coming into it, that I think there's some question marks on whether or not he's going to be available to play in this one. But I think you're right. He needs to get those reps out there. It's the same thing with every quarterback. You got to knock off some of that offseason rust, and we'll see if he does it. Next game, Mike, this one's yours. Seahawks and the Cowboys on Friday night, 8 p.m. game for them. We've seen the Cowboys kind of have some question marks so far in the preseason. Obviously, game one against the Broncos, completely shellacked, but then the offense kicked into gear against the Chargers, looked a lot better. You saw some new faces out there with Will Grier getting some snaps in. Week 3, though, are we seeing Dak Prescott or Zeke Elliott come out in this game, or Tony Pollard? Any of the big names you think?
I don't think so. And I know I just said that I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of Dak. I know I just said I want to see some other guys at this final tune-up, but those guys I don't think need it that much, because Dak's played a little bit. Some of these other guys played a little bit.
And he's injury prone, so you don't want to throw him out there and potentially
too.
lose your starter for the rest of the season because of a preseason dummy game.
Well, that too, and I'm looking at this team for the regular season. That's what matters, as all these games do. But I'm looking at a guy like Dak, who last year, coming off a horrible injury that he had the year before, he had, and this just, I'm not trying to be too positive about the Cowboys, because I know how I am with them. When I get positive, they come crashing down.
Yep.
But coming into this year, that's one thing I'm positive about, because I'm concerned about the penalties. I'm still concerned about the head coaching and the accountability on this coaching staff, and some other areas too. But with the Cowboys, that's something I'm encouraged about, because I know they have lots of offensive line issues. They have some penalty issues, and they lost some wide receivers, weapons that Dak liked to go to. But this is a guy last year who only had one offensive lineman start the entire year, and he had a career last year off of an injury. So I'm not worried about Dak. I'm not worried about it too much. But this final regular season game, like you said, I probably don't want to play him too much, because he is injured. He did have that big injury. Other than that, he's not injury prone. It's just that injury that he had, so that's worrisome.
Yeah.
But I'm not playing too much here in this game here against the Seahawks. You don't really need to, because they don't have too much to offer either. But yeah, that's where I'm at with this game.
Yeah, well, Drew Lock will play a lot against the Cowboys, but Geno Smith has been given the start, and at the moment, Pete Carroll's kind of come out and said, at the moment, we have 2 number ones on this team, and that means neither guy has really separated themselves in practice, which isn't a good thing for this Seattle team. They really needed, I think, one of these guys to make a big step up going into the season. That hasn't happened yet. They're 0-2 so far in the preseason. The offense got going against the Steelers, but completely fell apart against the Bears last week. It really wasn't a great performance. They put Jacob Eason into that game. He did fine. Geno Smith was in the game. He did fine. That first game they had against the Steelers, Drew Lock kind of set himself a little bit farther than Geno Smith in this battle, I'll say, between the two. So far in the preseason, Geno Smith, 15 pass attempts in game 1, 18 pass attempts in game 2, and he hasn't thrown a touchdown so far in the preseason. I know they're saying it's a tight race, but when Drew Lock has only thrown it 15 times, played 1 game, and has 2 touchdowns already in the preseason, we'll see if he plays here in week 4. I don't think there's much of a competition between these two. Even if Geno Smith is looking good in practice, if you can't score, you can't play. So I think you might have that kind of changing things around the other way. I think Drew Lock should be the starter for this team. We'll see how that develops when they take on the Broncos in week 1 of the season on September 12th. But I think there's going to be an odd game in this one. But I think the Seahawks might take the Cowboys in it. They're going to play more of their starters, trying to find a rhythm, trying to get any sort of chemistry to work this year. I think Seahawks can take this because the Cowboys, I don't think, are really going to be focusing on this game very much. They're going to be looking ahead to their start of the season on September 11th against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're aiming towards too. And I think I'd probably in this matchup probably give it to the Seahawks because they have more guys kind of fighting out for where they're going to play, and I think that creates more competition and more opportunity for big plays and explosive plays. But on terms of the Cowboys part, that's what I said because again, on paper every year they should be good. It's not on these like I do trust Dak Prescott. I don't trust the Cowboys coaching staff. And that's what it comes down to as we're looking to the season to start. But this game, I probably give it to the Seahawks because you're not going to see too many Cowboys important faces. You're going to see a lot of Seahawks guys trying to fight for their, to not only for their careers. Yeah, for their careers too as well. But even if they make the team, how much playing time they're going to get. So that's some things they're going to be shooting for in this last game because it's going to be another rebuilding year this year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think anyone's expecting. Of it, really. Right, I don't think anyone's gonna, expecting a playoff run from this team this year. But I think people are expecting to see some nice things from them, but not necessarily wins. They have a decent team, but I say they don't have a decent team. They have decent pieces on a bad team. So
you just want to see progress because this really is the first year because they stunk last year, but this is the first year post Russell Wilson that this really kicks off the rebuild. You don't know who's going to be where.
Right. You want to see some of those rookies too.
You just want to see progress. You just want to see progress every single year. Slow progress, whatever the pace is, but you want to see something every year that you're getting builders saying, "Hey, give a timetable like 2, 3, 4 years. We're gonna be this. We should be shooting for this to be good." And along that way, find a year that you're going to catch somebody off guard. I talked about it last year with the Cavs. I said this yesterday that they had a year last year where they kind of kickstarted things. They had a year where they did things that nobody thought they were going to do. So you have to have that some year in your rebuild, and some point. You would think, well, in a couple of years, Seahawks are going to have that, but just not going to be this year because they're just starting things.
100%. But I'm taking the Seahawks, and I think, like you said, they're going to have a lot of people going a little extra, especially against the Cowboys. I mean, Cowboys, they're not going to put things out there that you're going to be seeing in 2 weeks against the Buccaneers. They're looking ahead. They're not worried about preseason. They're not rebuilding. They're here. They're established. They're looking for the regular season, not for any preseason titles. Next game, though, two teams so far haven't found a way to win, so one of those streaks is going to end. I think both of them are kind of surprised. The LA Chargers and the New Orleans Saints. This one is in New Orleans. The Chargers have lost a close one to the Rams in week 1, a little bit less of a close one to the Cowboys in week 2, as we just noted. The Saints, on the other hand, lost a tight one in week 1 to the Texans, lost another tight one to the Packers. Both teams' offenses have kind of been shortchanged so far. I don't think we've seen them open up the playbooks. Neither team's really put their starters out there for very long in any of these games. Saints last week had Ian Book run the entire game for their offense. We haven't seen Jameis Winston so far. I think we saw Chris Olave a little bit. We haven't seen Jarvis Landry yet for this offense. We barely even saw Taysom Hill. It kind of has that same feeling we were just talking about with the Cowboys, really, for both of these teams. They're looking ahead to their week 1 matchups. They're not worried about these preseason games and what that's going to do for them. That's why you've seen pretty much nothing but backups so far on the preseason for both of these teams. I mean, Chargers have not even put in Justin Herbert, who's still, by all stretch of the imagination, a young quarterback in the NFL that could be benefiting from some of these preseason snaps. But everyone's been overly cautious with quarterbacks going into this year. I think part of that, though, is they're going into a 17-game season. It's longer. So they took out one of the preseason games, but I think these teams are still trying to, basically load manage. We hear it all the time in the NBA. It's even more true in the preseason of the NFL. You're not putting these guys out there for reps where they're going to get hurt, where they have chances of, major injuries. They're going out there, letting the young guys earn those positions on the squad and see who they need to cut, because you're not cutting the starters in preseason. You're cutting the guys 5-4 strings down on the depth chart. So coming into this one, neither team's backups have looked great. I think the Chargers have looked a little bit better in that position. And if Ian Book is running things in this final week for the Saints, I don't think it's going to be a good outcome for Saints fans.
And, I want to see a little bit of Jameis too because of not playing a lot last year with injury. But I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of Ian Book like we saw last week. Because, if a guy like Jameis goes down again this year like he did last year, I hope not. But there's potential for that. You got to get a guy like Ian Book behind him that's kind of ready to be in there. And I think with the Chargers side of it, I wouldn't mind seeing. You're not going to, but I keep saying this because it's the last week of the preseason. But I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of Justin Herbert too, because like you said, people keep forgetting how young this guy is. And I know he had a year last year that was a great year, but the Chargers didn't go anywhere last year. And I know it's not all on Justin Herbert. I know it's a little bit toward the coaching staff too. Some other miscues along the way, because they are still a young team. But that's the point. This team still is young, and I still want to see some things out of them. I would still see some good reps in the preseason as they get ready for the regular season. But you're not going to see most of that. I wish I would see that come out of this game for entertainment purposes. But I think the Chargers probably are going to take this one. I think they have a little bit more going. But I wouldn't mind seeing Ian Book maybe lead them to a win too, because I think they need to get him going a little more too.
Yeah, I 100% agree there. I think it'll be an interesting matchup between these two, though, with a lot of people going big in this one, because I think both these teams have some roster spots that they can open up going into this, but a lot of open position battles going on is what I think I should say in that department. But I think so far you've just seen the Chargers backups play a lot better. I mean, the offense has been there. The defense has led much to be desired, and that's where the Saints do have an advantage at the moment. But I think if we see more starters play, I think this will be the Chargers' game to lose.
I agree.
I think they have better offensive depth, and you really need that here in the preseason.
Because I think we talked about with the Saints the other day that I think they're a team that can do something this year, but that's what their main group. I don't know about their depth-wise, too, because I haven't paid attention too much to it. Not to say it's not there, but I think the Chargers have a little more of it.
I mean, when you just break these down statistically, which is really what a lot of these coordinators are doing, and statistical analysis is becoming a huge part of the NFL games. It's about stats, and obviously they care mostly what did your stats set up, and did that lead to a touchdown on that drive? Did it lead to you getting the touchdown? Did it lead for something beneficial for your team? But when you look just plain stats, I think even though both these teams have lost in all their games, the Chargers have had better losses. Really is what we would say down in the college level. Who had the highest quality of loss? And right now, I think that would go to this Chargers team over the Saints.
Yep.
Next game on our slate here, Patriots and the Raiders. Raiders making their fourth appearance now, and they are undefeated. Patriots coming in at 1-1. Apparently, Mac Jones had a pretty terrible day one joint practice with the Raiders. However, he did turn things around in a late 2-minute drill at the end of practice. So that's a good sign of things to come. You want him to get back, get sharp, and really make this a fun matchup. Raiders, though, they've looked really good. Their defense has been really, really solid, and their offense has done just enough with, again, guys that have been around in the league for a while. With Nick Mullins and Jarrett Stidham, well, they might necessarily have had the biggest moments of their careers. I think they've both been very reliable backups for a lot of teams, and seeing how they've performed so far in the preseason, I think you really got to like what's coming out of it. Although Nick Mullins, he was traded, wasn't he? So
I believe so.
Yeah, he was the one that got traded. I think we talked about that on Monday. But Jarrett Stidham and Chase Garbers, same thing with Garbers. He's looking like he can be another reliable backup quarterback. He's not going to, ever take over the starting reins of this team. This is Derek Carr's team, but for what we've seen out of guys filling in, they seem to be pretty good. Britton Brown looked really great on the ground last week. You come in here against the Patriots team that, they've been up and down in the first two games. Offense has put 20.5 points up on the board, average-wise per game, 21 in the first, 20 in the second. Defense showed improvement from going from the Giants to the Panthers in week 1 to week 2. So I think the Patriots are improving, but I really like the way this Raiders team is developing.
In headline purposes, Josh McDaniels going against his former team.
Oh, yeah, that's a good headline for this one, too.
Forgot about that part of it. And Jarrett Stidham also playing against his former team. There's some other guys playing against their former teams here. Again, I don't want to keep sounding repetitive, but because this is the last week of the preseason, but I really don't have too much on this game. The Raiders have looked good, 3-0, like you said. I think they've shown some other areas, like we keep talking about depth with some teams that they're kind of showing that off too a little bit because they haven't been playing the main guys. They've had that extra game in the Hall of Fame game, but I think I'll flip it here and go to the Patriots. I'll take them to take a road preseason game in the last one.
I think that's a fair enough statement. I don't know. There's a lot of worries when it comes to this Patriots team on what they're going to have come regular season, and from what we've seen out of their depth outside of Bailey Zappi, I don't know how much I love the depth of this Patriots team. I mean, I think we've seen a lot more of their starters play than a lot of other teams because there's a lot of position battles going on, and the fact that they haven't looked great while having all that go on, I don't know. I was really high on this team before preseason, but and I don't want to put too much stock in it, but preseason's kind of making me lose some faith in this year's Patriots team. And I'm sure once we hit, week 5 of the season, I'll be like, yep, Patriots are right back where they are. But at the moment, I definitely think there's some questions going into the season. However, we haven't seen them in the preseason with Mac Jones controlling the offense.
Well, and again, there actually is official now. I saw yesterday that Bill Belichick is going to be calling the plays. I know we didn't need to hear that, but it actually is official because he actually did say, he's like, eventually, things do go through me, and I am the head coach. So that pretty much is him saying he's going to call the plays without him saying he's going to call the plays. So that's something else to keep in mind as the regular season goes on and how it's going to affect Mac Jones. I think it's something else we were talking about to start the preseason.
Yep. All right. Next game, Jaguars taking on the Falcons. The first game on Saturday for week 4, a 3 p.m. matchup, and Jacksonville 0-3 so far. Mike, they have just looked freaking terrible here in preseason. I know they were close against the Steelers last week, but that was bad. It was really a bad game overall. I think their defense has looked better, but that offense is just in shambles at the moment. Atlanta, while they don't look great offensively, they have
a win.
They have a win, and they put up more points, at least, in their prior preseason games. I mean, you look at this Falcons squad right now, and they're at, 45 points or 43 points so far in the preseason in 2 games. And the Jaguars in more games than that are at, 39 points. So the Falcons in 2 games have put up more points than the Jaguars have in 3 games. That's how bad this Jacksonville.
I think Alec got cut off there, but with Jacksonville too.
Back.
I don't know if I was frozen or just got caught off or what.
My little mouse has a back button right here at the thumb, and I was moving it around, and it just hit my other hand right into the button, closed out StreamYard.
You're all good.
Yep. But, yeah, I was saying, this Jacksonville team is just awful. Atlanta's been all right. They're definitely got some nice building blocks, I think. Desmond Ridder has looked really good in practice. We haven't seen it as much in play. He did good against the Jets last week, but he didn't throw that touchdown. Marcus Mariota is the clear favorite to take the starting job. I want to see this Atlanta team set up the ground game more. I think when you got 2 mobile quarterbacks in Ridder and Mariota, I think you got to utilize the ground game a little bit more and find a way to take advantage of teams that way, because you can't be one-dimensional in the NFL. And so far, we haven't really seen them go to the ground game. Last time, Felipe Franks was the leading rusher. Caleb Huntley couldn't get anything going on the ground. First game against the Lions, Desmond Ridder was the leading rusher for this team. So this is a team, the Falcons, I think they need to find a way to get their running backs involved and take the ground game from there, because what makes Lamar Jackson so dangerous with Baltimore with his legs is the fact that when he runs those read options, he's not always taking the ball, because he has guys like Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and he's had a lot of guys over the last couple of years that can take the ball and run just as well as he can. Right now with the Falcons, I don't think they have that. They need to find a back somewhere, and maybe that comes from a trade. I mean, I know Cleveland has, 5, 6 solid running backs that we've seen so far. Make a trade over there. And you have to find a way to make this a more dynamic offense. You can't force your quarterback to do it all. You don't have a Lamar Jackson-esque guy who can do that if he needs to, like he did last year.
And this part of it, too, is another reason why they need to mix things up with the run game and try to balance the pass game, do some other things in the run game, too. Like you said, get some quarterbacks moving around, get some options, too, some pitches to the side. Because look at this schedule they're going to be going up against. Saints, they normally have a good defense. Rams, we just saw what they did in the playoffs in the Super Bowl. Seahawks, maybe not so much, but the Browns, Bucks after that, 49ers, Bengals. So that first half of the season, for most of their schedule too, you're playing even the Steelers down at the end of the year, they're playing some difficult teams too. So they got to try to get the running game going, because, like you said, that's what makes the Ravens so successful, is because it's not always going to be Lamar. They have some other running backs too. So you have to show it's not always going to be the quarterback. It's going to be some running backs too as well. So you're going to have to mix things up when you're going to get a schedule like that too for Falcons when things get serious.
Yeah, I agree. But in this game, Mike, I'm taking Falcons, and I think so far they've looked better than the Jaguars. I think they're going 0-4 to start things out in the preseason.
Let them go 0-4. Why not? It's preseason. We've seen that records don't matter in the preseason, so maybe
Right.
they'll come out and tear things up. But seriously, I think it's showing that, at least in that Steelers game too, because I know the Steelers didn't have good offensive line play either in that game this past weekend. But I think that was a concern we had with the Jaguars, that with the young quarterback, their offensive line still is not the best. So although we thought skill wise they could have a better year this year and win some more games they did last year, as long as their offensive line's weak like that in the bottom half of the league, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, 100%. Next game, another Saturday game, Rams at the Bengals. If this was the regular season, I think it would be fun. This is
Rematch.
preseason. They kind of said Joe Burrow, I don't think is going to get any playing time in it. He's been full participant in joint practices with the Rams this week. So is Jesse Bates. He's finally back from injury as well. So they've been 0-2 so far. They've had some decent offensive performances, but their defense has left much to be desired. We've seen actually a pretty good Giants offense so far in this preseason, put up over 25 points a game, and the Cardinals in week 1 tore apart this Bengals team defensively, and now we get a Super Bowl rematch to finish out the preseason. That's kind of the one storyline coming out, because I don't think you're going to see many guys go in this game. Probably John Wolford is the starter for the Rams in this one. Their wide receiver core is depleted, so I wish we could see Matt Stafford get some time with the ones out there, because I don't know what they're really going to bring into this season, because they did lose a couple of key pieces from the Super Bowl. They're bringing back the main guys, but when you lose that depth, sometimes it can create some holes in those first few weeks of the season that they're going to need to address. And when you're the Rams going up against the Bills in week 1, you kind of have things figured out by September 8th. Sitting around and not allowing Stafford to get those game time reps until the Bills. I know it's a home game, but that's not going to be a recipe for success in that matchup.
Let's have everybody play. It's a rematch of the Super Bowl. Let's get them all out there, especially because, and I think this year with the Rams too, as good as they were last year, I think they're going to be a little bit better this year too. I love getting Allen Robinson for this team. I really do. And I think even, an MC that we talk about, it's pretty weak. Why not? I know it's hard to repeat, but why not? I think they built up some stuff on their offense this year.
A lot of people have been talking about potentially the Rams repeating this season. I don't know if I see it happening. It's so hard to repeat in the NFL. We really don't see teams win back-to-back. We see them get the back-to-backs plenty of times, but winning them back-to-back has become a really hard phenomenon, really, in the NFL. So while I think they can get to an NFC championship, because we've talked about how weak that NFC is, I just don't see them winning it again this year, and I don't see them getting to that Super Bowl. I think they're going to come up just short this time around. Matt Stafford's a good quarterback, but keep in mind, we haven't seen him play an entire season.
That's true. And he just had injury problems in this past training camp, too.
Right. And yeah, he's got shoulder problems, so we'll see how that affects the start of the season. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Teams got to remember that, because we see it every single year. You have to plan for the worst, and if the worst happens to this Rams team and Stafford has to miss a couple of games here and there, John Wolford's not going to win those games. And if that comes down late in the season, is Matt Stafford really going to be the guy to get things done in the postseason injured? I don't think so. He's a good quarterback, really, really good quarterback, but, he's not one of those guys that goes out and carries a team. If that was the case, he would have done better than 3-13 at Detroit every year.
Yeah, but
he has better weapons now. This is an entire team. This isn't one guy anymore. And we haven't seen Stafford play a whole season not having to be the guy. We saw him finish it well, but can he go the entire season without the entire spotlight being him? We don't know. Well, you'd like to say yes. We don't know.
I kind of feel, again, not a lot, because he, like you said, it's a different team than he was on last year. It was pretty loaded, but there's a lot of moments that he had in that run last year, especially in the playoffs, that he did kind of, I don't want to say put him on his back, because you need other guys around him, but he made some big throws in that tight game against Tampa Bay. He made some clutch plays in the Super Bowl. So I know, he might not have done it the whole way, but that run last year, Matt Stafford kind of shut some people up that thought that he couldn't make big plays in big moments. And I think, I'm not guaranteeing the Rams to go back this year or repeat, because I know how hard it is in any sport, let alone to win one. But I like what they did this offseason with their skill group, and I still think they're a very talented team. I know they lost some guys on defense too with Von Miller going to the Bills, but I think they still have what it takes to do it. And they're definitely in the conversation because NFC's weak.
All right, Matt Morrison rejoining the show. Let's get your thoughts here. LA Rams taking on the Cincinnati Bengals here. A rematch of the Super Bowl for the final week of the NFL preseason.
Yeah, it should be a pretty good matchup. I like to see all those young guys. Mike, I know you said Von Miller is departing. Thank God to Buffalo. That'd be great. But, I mean, I still like this Rams team to do what they did last year, and I still like this Bengals team to do what they did last year. I mean, I think they need to touch a couple of those things up on the offensive line, which maybe they can find that guy in this preseason. I mean, that's what preseason is all about, finding those young guys that can make an impact on your team. And offensive linemen need to make an impact for the Bengals and Joe Burrow, or it's not going to work out. I mean, I know he made it to the Super Bowl last year, but it's probably one of the few times we see a team with a shaky offensive line go to the Super Bowl like that. So I'd like to see them get another guy in there. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big name. It just has to be a guy who comes in and does his job.
And Matt, we'll see if it's one of these guys that are trying to fight for final roster spot too. If they work up the ways up in the starting rotation.
I mean, I've seen it before. I've seen guys like Mike Adams. He went to Ohio State and he made one of the final spots on the Steelers a long time ago, and he made a pretty big impact for a few seasons or so. I mean, it can be anybody. It doesn't have to be a first-round draft pick. So that's what these games are deciding.
Well, Matt, one of the big things with second-year quarterbacks as well in making it to the Super Bowl, not many guys have made it in their second year in won the Super Bowl and then made it back. So it's going to be a hard thing for Joe Burrow to do. And remember, last year was his first full season with the Bengals as well. So he came off with a chip on his shoulder, and he also came in with next to no NFL film on him. This is really his second year in the NFL, second full year. That first season we saw some flashes. Second year we saw what he can be. Third year, I think we have to look at this as a lot of second-year quarterback seasons. Look for that regression. Now teams have film on you. Now teams know your weaknesses. Now teams can really look to pick you apart. He's still got the benefit of amazing running backs, an amazing or pretty good defense, and a really great wide receiver core. So he's going to have that to his benefit. And that's not what defenses can't really do much about, great wide receivers. They're going to get open. They're going to find their spots. But now I think teams can find schemes that work. They've had an entire offseason to go and pick apart Joe Burrow's film and find what doesn't work for him. And I know the Bengals have seen what doesn't work either, and they're probably going to try and avoid putting him in those situations. But that's the defense coordinator's job, right, is to go find out what makes that quarterback tick and what can I do to throw him out of his rhythm. So having a whole nother year underneath his belt, all that extra film, I think you're going to see that year two regression as the team catches, or as the league catches back up to what Joe Burrow's doing. You see it with a lot of guys everywhere. That's why so many people are calling for Mac Jones to have a regression year. It's his second season with the Pats, and people are looking at him like, oh, he had a great year season one, but it's not going to happen again. It's just what we look for in second-year quarterback. Even Tua, who's down in Miami. People are calling for him to have that second-year regression. No one's calling for Joe Burrow to have it because everyone's looking at this like a third year. This is a second-year quarterback in Joe Burrow in reality.
And we've had a lot of quarterbacks have second-year regressions and then come back and be phenomenal for the rest of their careers. I mean, Josh Allen, he came in, his first year was pretty good, and then that second year they weren't the best team. Now look at them. I don't know if you can put that with Patrick Mahomes since, they've been in AFC championships almost every year.
Pat Mahomes he's never really had a fall off, but
he's never.
We'll see. We'll see if he does this year. He doesn't have nearly as many weapons out there.
But I'm talking early in career, like he took it by storm.
Yeah,
I think he's one exception.
Yeah,
I think Lamar Jackson's in that category too. Second year he won MVP, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had some great second years, but it's always the thing you look for. Can you get over that hump of everybody figuring out your ticks? So
I just don't know with the Bengals. Again, I think there's levels to a certain Super Bowl hangover. I don't think they're going to go back to Super Bowl, so I guess that falls under them kind of regressing. But the schedule too, Matt. We always talk about how hard the AFC North is. You got opening up to the Steelers. You got say what you want against the Browns. They still have a good parts on their team. The Ravens too. You got to play them twice. Some other teams they got to play too. The Saints.
This AFC North is going to be tough. They got a lot of young stud quarterbacks in there.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And they got to play the Bucs. They got to play the Chiefs, the Bills, Patriots. Like I said, the Saints, the Ravens twice. the Dolphins, we'll see what they are this year. The Cowboys at the Cowboys week 2, so they have a tough schedule too. But we'll see. They caught things off storm by next year. Let's see if they can do it again.
All right. Well, in this game, guys, I'm taking the Rams to once again beat the Bengals. Bengals haven't really looked great with their depth here in the preseason. Rams have looked a little better, so I'll give the Rams, and I got Bengals losing every game here in the preseason, which does turn out well for some teams, by the way.
I'm going to get the Bengals taking 1 off the preseason schedule, so I'll take them to finish 1 and 2.
Matt?
Yeah, I'll go Rams.
Commanders taking on the Ravens. Baltimore undefeated, make it, I believe, 21 or 22 straight preseason wins. I don't see that changing up here. Washington has looked less than desirable so far. They've kept it close, but they haven't been able to win. I think that's going to be a storyline you're going to see all season long. We've learned today Chase Young will miss at least the first 4 games of the season. He's been put on the injured reserve, the PUP/injured reserve. So he's on that short term.
What does PUP mean, by the way?
I don't know.
Guys on that. I don't even know what
everyone keeps getting put on these like PUP IR lists.
PUP?
Yeah.
Physically unable to perform list. That's what it is.
Did they just add that? Because I never heard that term.
I think it was kind of they may have had it, but I think it became what everyone was using from COVID. So it kind of got some additions made to it for the COVID season. And all of that was kind of left in because teams really liked it, and it helps them when it comes to those big injuries middle of the season.
Instead, like when COVID first started, they said they were on the COVID reserve list. Now I think it sounds better. This PUP, you know.
Right.
So I think that's been kind of the big change. So far, Ravens, though, offenses looked kind of what we expected to be. They've actually had some really good play from Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown. I got to say, both those guys have looked solid here in the preseason. They took down the Cardinals. They took down the Titans. They've taken down some good teams. So I think I see their preseason streak continuing to run. I got them going over the Commanders here, who have just they've been underwhelming. And that's just how the Commanders are going to be, I think, this year.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is about this game, actually, I'm going with the Ravens until they lose a game in the preseason. And Tyler Huntley, like I said, I like the way he's played. And filling in last year regular season for Lamar Jackson and what he's done kind of, through these first 2 games, I'm going to keep rolling with the Ravens.
I'll go with the Ravens, too. Washington, shouldn't even be called a football team.
Yeah, we're getting ready for the school year.
Yeah, we're finally all on, man. How about that? It never happens. We'll get better. I think every Friday for the next couple of weeks, or most every Friday, it's going to be all 3 of us. During the week, though, it's going to be 2 guys on the show, so we'll see how this all goes. It's going to be an interesting run.
I've told my workplace like hundreds of times. I wrote it down like, hey, I need to be out here at this certain time on Fridays. I can't stay late. They'll still probably put me on there like at 7 to 3 or something. I'm like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah, during these next couple of weeks here, as we get into the Youngstown State semester, all finishing up here at colleges. We're going to be doing a lot of pre-recording, so unfortunately our live comments here, our live comments aren't going to be as focused later on in the year as we go. That's unfortunate. We're going to start pre-recording a lot so we can get different personalities on the show every day.
Yeah, you might see some different faces too.
Yeah, we're in the talks to bring in a couple of guys here from the network to bring on. So,
Richard, our fellow colleague Richard, maybe.
Yep, perhaps we could be bringing him on. Eagles and the Dolphins, our next preseason game. I don't know how to bounce off that one, Matt.
I call that all the time.
Both teams coming in 1-1 so far. Eagles beat the Browns in a close one last week. They just lost to the Jets in week 1 by a field goal. Dolphins, on the other hand, they barely beat out the Buccaneers and lost to a really good preseason Raiders team. I think they're both coming in with a lot of momentum. This should be really fun to watch. Eagles maybe have some questions on defense, but I think both of these offenses should be cooking here in the final week of the preseason.
It should be.
Yeah, I want to see what the Dolphins do with a little bit of their talent on their offensive end, because actually both these teams have a lot of new faces on offense too. So I want to kind of see them work out any kinks that are left before the regular season starts.
Dolphins are going to be a surprise this year.
You think
so?
so?
Are the Eagles. I think both teams here.
Do you guys think so? Because I keep seeing people talk about this. I keep seeing pretty split in half on the Dolphins.
I'll tell you what. Everybody's getting hyped up over Tyreek Hill in Miami, and
everybody hated him last year with Kansas City. Everybody called him that he sucks.
Listen, I still can't stand him. So, I don't care what team you're on. Now that he's in the Bills division, so I mean, they're hyping it up too much. I don't think it's going to pan out too well. Because
in my count, really if he was on the Steelers,
we're really going to see how good of a quarterback Patrick Mahomes and Tua are right here.
Alec, to be fair, you don't really have a choice if your team wants to get somebody you don't like.
Fair enough.
So I don't like them.
You can still be on your team, but if you can
I think Matt Morrison would be the first guy to have a Lamar Jackson jersey if he joined the Steelers.
Are you serious? No, I think I would fully transform into a Buffalo Bills fan.
Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that.
No way.
Oh no, Matt would get an MVPs quarterback, and then he did.
You can't put me in that situation. What about you guys? Alec, you hate Kyler Murray. I mean,
I would be just fine with him being the starting quarterback. Matt, you can't be like, oh man, what if I gave you a really good quarterback and be like, please, I'm a Browns fan. We don't get those.
First of all,
Deshaun Watson hasn't made a pass in the preseason so far. Hasn't made a pass in the practice this week. He's looked freaking terrible.
Alec, in your defense, well, at least on Matt, that's not a great question because, like Alec just said, they have not had great quarterbacks since we've been alive.
So, the Browns will take anybody. It doesn't matter.
Give me a better example because there's ain't many guys that I don't like in
Mike,
the NFL.
Who's the worst St. Louis Cardinals player?
I don't want to throw the word hate around too much, by the way.
St. Louis Cardinals?
I don't hate too many people. I don't want to throw that around, but
okay, I know. You can't stand. We'll put it that way. You can't stand. I know you can't stand the Cardinals.
I just can't stand the Cardinals. I do like Paul Goldschmidt. I do like Nolan Arenado, so I won't say them too. Probably Tyler O'Neill. I just don't like him.
Okay.
He always has big hits. I think he's on steroids too. I think he's
traded for him. What Pittsburgh traded Cruz and Hayes to get him?
This is not a fair comparison because the Pirates suck. I take anybody that's half decent in baseball. They don't have anybody that's half decent. They're getting their asses kicked right now against the Braves.
Yeah, that's true. Well, the Braves are playing.
They've only won 8 games since All-Star break. I'll take anybody.
Go Cards. First of all, I like the guy. What's this guy's real name?
I have no idea.
What is your real name?
Matt, are you related?
No. Oh, dude. Why you gotta do me like that?
No, I had to throw it out there. Okay, we got to move on next game here. We got 6 more games here in the final week of the preseason. We were just talking about one of the guys from this team, Cardinals and the Titans. You look at this game, Cardinals, Titans. I mean, both teams are 1-1. Both teams haven't really shown much. Titans have, I think, had decent defense outside. I mean, the Ravens game, they kind of let it loose. But second game, I mean, they completely dominated the Buccaneers offense. Cardinals, their defense has been actually kind of poor. So I think I'm going to go Titans in this one. Make it a quick pick.
I'll go Titans, too.
Oh, cool. It's Albert Pujols.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
I'm going to go Cardinals because I hope Trace McSorley plays again.
That's a good reason to pick.
I do like Trace McSorley with the Cardinals, man. With the number 19, too. Like, always see number 9.
The black helmets they wore the last game, they're pretty sweet.
Those black Cardinal helmets, those are sick.
Nice. With the black jerseys, those nice. Give me Trace.
All right. Bears and Browns. This is my team. Bears so far somehow undefeated. They beat the Chiefs week 1, beat the Seahawks week 2. Can they take down the Browns now in their third game? I would probably say there's a good shot in that. I'd like to see the Browns win, but they didn't look good against the Jags. They really didn't look good against the Eagles. They have some nice, young, promising pieces, and I'm excited to see how that, pans out. But overall, as a team, I mean, I think that they have taken a step back from last year, even with, Baker playing injured all last season. I'd love to say that this is a team that goes, 9-8. But the reality of the situation is I don't know if that's going to happen.
I'd love to see this Bears team perform.
Even if Deshaun Watson played all season, I don't know if that would happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the guy, I know he's a heck of an athlete. Some of the things he did with Houston, I was totally shocked with. Like, there's that playoff game against Buffalo 2-3 years ago. I'm like, wow, this Watson guy's a playmaker. But here's the thing: he hasn't played in almost 2 years. So
I was just gonna say that.
Even if you get him,
great.
If you get him back after 11 games, how good is he going to be? The guy hasn't played. I know
he's looked really, really bad so far in every clip I've seen.
Yeah.
Browns paid this guy a lot of money, and he's looking real bad. Love the Browns.
Do they
man.
play week
so
one,
great
man.
to be finally the Browns go out and spend big on a quarterback, and we get this guy.
Well,
Out of all the free agents over the last 20 years, we get Deshaun Watson and giving up half of our load. So,
you know what? Again, time will tell. It's been preseason. This guy's not played a lot. He's not going to play a lot this year either. So time will tell. But
we got 5 years of it.
That much money to anybody. I don't know. I don't care who it is. That is a lot of money. You got a lot to live up to. So I'm just saying.
For that much money, there better be at least an AFC championship game in that 5 years.
At least, yeah.
At least one.
Just one.
Yeah.
That much money, that's Tom Brady numbers is what.
And that's being nice.
Right.
That's being nice. It better be at least more than one.
Yeah. The reality of you're paying that much, you better be getting the Super Bowl.
Browns got pressure on him.
You know how the Browns do with pressure. Choke artist.
Just like
hope we
my
don't have to play Denver in the postseason. That doesn't go well for us.
Oh gosh.
I am gonna take the Browns in this one, though. I have to. They're my team.
I'm going with the Bears.
I probably would too.
Yeah,
Mike?
I'll go Bears
Justin
too.
Fields.
They're 2-0 so far.
You can go either way. Fields was Ohio State.
Yes, I can.
There you go. I just picked the Buckeye, Alec.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ooh, save it. Save the clip. Save the clip. Mike took a Buckeye to win a game.
Well, the Browns
Granted,
have
he did it
too,
over
so.
the Browns, too. So
And the Browns have a Buckeye, too, so it cancels out.
Yep.
Yeah.
They have a really good Buckeye at the second level. We'll see how Justin
At least
Fields
every
turns
team
out.
has a Buckeye on their team.
Every team needs one. That's facts.
Well, at least every team has one.
Almost.
Almost.
Buccaneers and Colts. Next game we're focusing in on here. Colts 0-2. Buccaneers 0-2 a little surprisingly. Their offense completely got shut down last week, and the Colts have actually been decent in the offensive department. Their defense has just been bad, so you might see a little bit more out of the Buccaneers, but I'm actually going to give this one to the Colts. I think they've just, despite the fact both teams have lost, I think they've had better losses is how I'm going to put it, so I'll go Colts.
I'll go Buccaneers.
Mike?
I like Sam Ehlinger, but man, he's looking a little shaky.
Kyle Trask hasn't been that great either.
No, he hasn't either.
I know Tom Brady's been out for a while. I wouldn't imagine he'd be playing in this game, but I guess I'm with Tampa.
I want to throw that out there too. A lot of people are like, "Where's Brady at? Where is he?" Like, dude, the guy's not just gonna not show.
Don't worry about it. Wait till the regular season.
He's coming out of retirement.
Don't worry about it.
And Matt, you said Sam Ehlinger hasn't looked good. He was 9-11 for 136 yards last week with 2 touchdowns.
I just saw some clips where he got hit pretty good. That's all.
Well, getting hits one thing, making the pass is another, and he was making the pass last week, so we'll see.
All right,
how
cool.
it turns out this game. Vikings Broncos. Vikings 0-2 so far, and so long as Kellen Mond's the quarterback, they're not winning. They did bring in Nick Mullins, so we'll probably see Nick Mullins take some snaps as well. It'll be interesting to see how quickly he can get kind of moved into that system, but it feels like a position battle coming into the week, so we'll see if that is the case. Broncos on the other side, they've been mediocre, 16 points a game through 2 games, and they've allowed, 25-ish points, 24.5 points per game defensively, so numbers not in their favor so far. I don't know exactly how much we're going to see of either team, but this came out. Denver's going to be starting Brett Ripien here against the Vikings. So with the position battle going on, I think I don't remember. With the Vikings having a position battle, I think it might be a little bit more competitive on their side. So I'll go Vikings to not go winless in the preseason.
Kellen Mond, let's go.
I'm not betting on Kellen Mond.
I am. Why not? Let's do it.
I like Kellen Mond.
Vikings fans don't.
Vikings fans don't like anybody.
That's facts. Giants and Jets battle in New York, finishing things out on Sunday, 1 p.m. Both teams undefeated, and I think right now this Giants team, they've been solid offensively. They need help on the defensive side, but I think really both of these offense coming in have looked good so far. They both just had a massive brawl in their last joint practice, so we'll see how things go. This is a decent rivalry. We'll see what happens. I don't think you're going to be seeing Zach Wilson at the helm, so we'll see who ends up getting the nod to start out the season, or finish out preseason, I should say. But man, I never like taking a New York team, but I think the Giants have been a little bit better, so I guess I'll go that way. Only
Jets,
time Giants are going to be undefeated in any category this season.
Jets, because I don't like the Giants. I'll just say that.
I'll go Jets.
Mike, yeah, that's your division. So last game on it, Lions, Steelers. Steelers 2-0 so far in the preseason. They've been close ones each time. Now they go up against the Lions, who come in at 1-1, have had close losses to the Falcons, then a very tight win over the Colts. Somehow they've been getting it done. They haven't had really good play from anywhere. So based on that fact, Steelers, well, it's been close for them. They found ways to win in both of them. So I think I'll go Steelers to take. I think we're going to see a lot of Kenny Pickett here to finish it out.
That's why I'm picking them too.
Yes.
Steelers all across the board here. Surprise, surprise to absolutely nobody.
Pickett's sweet, man.
He's going to be something. I hope he turns out, because I think so far he's looked really promising. And when you got Pickett throwing to Pickens, you just hope it doesn't get picked.
Matt, I saw on Twitter, how they used to call it Big Ben and Bell and Brown the killer bees.
Brown. Yeah.
They're
the killer peas.
Yeah, with Pickett, Pickens, and Pat Freiermuth.
Yeah, I liked it.
It's a good trio. Just saying.
Hey, don't forget Najee Harris. I know I don't really like him, but I mean he did put up a lot of yards last year and helped the team
He's still
out.
hurt, isn't he?
He'll be all right.
I don't know. Let's see how long
he hasn't been playing at all.
A couple weeks ago, he just tweaked his ankle or something like that, or knee or whatever, but he'll be all right.
All the running backs I've seen are Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland.
Well, I saw a video yesterday of him running up a hill, so.
Yeah, I don't see anything about him being out for an extended time anymore. So that is unfortunately all the time we have today for the Casual Sports Podcast. I've been Alec Berna. That's Mike Wolfgang. And for the brief period today, Matt Morrison, Power Hour, coming up next on your Sports Network.